Most dangerous man in the world once controlled a city with fear and money. Colombia, the 1980s, a time when cocaine became more valuable than gold. The mountains stood tall and green. The cities grew wild and loud. And in the middle of it all, one man built an empire that would shake the entire planet. His name was Pablo Escobar. He was born poor in a small town called Rio Negro. His mother was a teacher. His father was a farmer. They had nothing. But the boy who grew up in that simple house would one day become richer than kings, richer than oil tycoons. So rich that he offered to pay off his country's entire national debt. But this is not a story about success. This is a story about power. And what happens when one human being gets too much of it? In the hills outside Medellin, Pablo started small. Stolen tombstones, fake lottery tickets, smuggled cigarettes. He was learning, watching, waiting. The world around him was changing. America was hungry for something new, something that made people feel invincible. Cocaine. Pablo saw the opportunity before others did. He understood something simple. If you control the supply, you control everything. He built laboratories deep in the jungle, places where the coca leaves became white powder, places no police could find. He created routes that stretched from Colombia to Miami, from Miami to New York, from New York to every corner of America. His product moved like water through pipes, unstoppable, invisible. The money came in waves, trucks full of cash. He employed thousands. Sicarios, they were called. Assassins. Some were grown men, some were teenagers, some were children. He paid them well to kill, and they killed without question, without mercy, without hesitation. The body count rose. Hundreds, then thousands. Journalists, judges, police officers, innocent people caught in crossfire. Entire neighborhoods terrorized. The beautiful city of Medellin became known as the murder capital of the world. And still, Pablo walked free, untouchable, protected by money and fear and the love of the poor. The government of Colombia didn't know what to do. Never faced someone like this. Someone who was both loved and feared. Someone who could buy politicians as easily as he bought groceries. Someone who had an army of loyal followers willing to die for him. So they made a deal. A prison, but not a real prison. Pablo would build it himself. On a hill overlooking Medellin. He called it La Catedral, the cathedral. It had a soccer field, a bar, a nightclub, luxury suites. He ran his empire from inside those walls, protected by the very agreement that was supposed to imprison him. But even this wasn't enough for Pablo. He killed 2 of his own men inside the prison. The government finally understood there was no controlling this man. There was no containing him. They tried to move him to a real prison. He escaped, just walked out, past guards, past gates, into the night. The most wanted man in the world simply vanished into his own country. Now the hunt began in earnest. Colombian government, the American DEA, a special police unit called the Search Block, and a vigilante group called Los Pepes. They all wanted the same thing: Pablo Escobar, dead or alive. But finding him was like finding a ghost. He moved from safe house to safe house, never sleeping in the same place twice, never trusting anyone completely. His empire was crumbling, his friends were dying, his family was hunted. But he kept fighting, kept running, kept believing he could win. The Americans brought technology, surveillance planes, phone tracking equipment. They listened to every call, watched every street. The Search Block raided house after house. Los Pepes killed his associates one by one. The walls were closing in. His wife and children fled to Germany, then to London, then to Mozambique. Nowhere would take them. The family of the world's most wanted criminal. They came back to Colombia, broken, desperate, separated from the man who had given them everything. Pablo was alone now. Just him and a few loyal bodyguards, moving through the city he once owned, hiding in the neighborhoods where people once cheered his name. But times had changed. The violence had become too much. Even those who loved him grew tired of the killing, tired of the fear, tired of the war. On December 2nd, 1993, the phone trackers picked up a signal. A house in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin. The Search Block moved in, fast, silent, deadly. Pablo heard them coming. He tried to run. Across the roof, under the hot Colombian sun, a man who once controlled everything, now running like a rat. The bullets found him. They say he died on that rooftop. They say the Search Block killed him. Others say he shot himself. One last act of control, choosing his own end. He was 44 years old. People came to see his body, thousands of them. Some cried, some celebrated. His mother touched his face and wept. The photographer captured it all. The end of an empire. The death of a legend. The fall of a king. But the story doesn't end there. It never really ends. Pablo Escobar killed thousands of people. He destroyed countless lives. He corrupted an entire nation. He created a drug trade that still exists today, still kills, still destroys. His legacy is written in blood and tears. Yet in the poorest parts of Medellin, you can still find his face on walls, painted in bright colors. A strange kind of saint. People still visit his grave, still leave flowers, still remember the man who built their homes and their hope. This is the mystery of Pablo Escobar. How can one man be both monster and messiah? How can the same person build schools and bomb buildings, feed the hungry and murder the innocent? The truth is complicated. truth is uncomfortable. He was not a hero. He was not a simple villain. He was something more troubling. He was human. A human who showed us what happens when poverty meets opportunity, when intelligence meets ruthlessness, when ambition has no limits and morality has no weight. He proved that the line between good and evil is thinner than we want to believe, that people will forgive almost anything if you give them what they need. That power corrupts not just the powerful, but everyone who touches it. Colombia still carries his scars. Families still mourn their dead. The drug trade he industrialized still poisons millions. His methods are still copied by cartels around the world. His story is still told in whispers and warnings. But here is what they don't always say. Pablo Escobar was only possible because of us. Our hunger for drugs created his empire. Our poverty created his army. Our corruption created his protection. Our demand created his supply. He was a reflection, dark mirror showing us what we would rather not see. The monster we created together. The devil we invited in. And on that rooftop in Medellin, when the bullets finally stopped him, the world breathed easier. But the system that made him remained. The poverty remained. The corruption remained. The demand remained. Other names would rise. Other empires would grow. Because nothing really changed. We killed the man but kept the world that made him. Pablo Escobar is gone, but what he represented lives on. In every choice we make. In every shortcut we take. In every time we decide that the end justifies the means. In every moment we trade our principles for profit. The most dangerous man in the world is dead. The world that made him dangerous is still here. Still waiting. Still hungry. Still ready to create the next monster. From the next desperate boy who dreams too big and cares too little. And that is the real horror of this story. Not that it happened, but that it could happen again. Is happening again. Will always happen again. Until we finally understand. The real enemy was never just one man. The real enemy is what we allow, what we accept, what we create together in our silence and our greed. Pablo Escobar controlled a city with fear and money. But in the end, the city buried him. Time buries everything. Empires, kings, legends. All of it turns to dust. All of it fades. Except for one thing, the lesson. And the question of whether we're brave enough to learn it.